Okay, so usually when we start a deep dive, I feel like I have a pretty good handle on, reality. We
Hmm.
talk tech trends, historical battles, things that are firmly grounded. But today, I am looking at a stack of papers that are making me question absolutely everything. We are talking about giants.
And just to be clear for everyone listening, right off the bat, we aren't talking about mythology.
Right.
We aren't discussing like the Cyclops or Goliath in some metaphorical way.
Yeah.
We're talking about newspaper reports.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is the wildest part. I have a stack of ad clippings here. Actual journalism from the mid-19th to the early 20th century. We've got the Bisbee Daily Review, the Stark County Democrat.
And these are presented as news.
Straight news. Yeah. Giant skeleton found. Bones of enormous stature. It's just there, next to the shipping reports.
It really is a fascinating slice of media history. Our mission here isn't to, prove that 40-foot humans walk the earth. Our goal is to look at this very specific era of reporting where, for some reason, digging up a massive human skeleton was just a Tuesday. It was a recurring thing.
It's the details that get me. They don't just say big bones. They have names. They have dates. They have specific measurements down to the inch. It's incredibly precise for something that sounds completely impossible.
Well, precision gives it that veneer of truth, right? That's what makes these so compelling. They use the language of science to describe things that, biologically speaking, just shouldn't exist. So where should we start?
We have to start with the adventure story. This one from the Bisbee Daily Review, June 24, 1908. The headline is just screaming at you. Giant skeleton found in Mexico.
Yeah, this for Charles C. Clapp account, the Boston broker.
Yes, Mr. Clapp. And the article treats his story like it's an Indiana Jones script.
Yeah.
So Clapp is down in Mexico, camping out, and it says, late one night, a shot was heard from the distant hills.
Classic. Such a classic setup.
Right. And he gives this reasoning that feels so specific to the time. He says when you hear a gun in that part of Jalisco, quote, it means that a white man is shooting and then he means business.
So instead of running away, they go looking for it.
Of course they do. They find the mine foreman who saw two shining eyes and took a shot. They figure they're hunting a wounded mountain lion.
So they're not even looking for archaeology. They're on a big game hunt, which in a weird way kind of lends credibility to this story, right?
Yeah.
The idea that they just stumbled upon it.
Exactly.
Okay.
So they track this mountain lion to a cave, but the entrance is all blocked up with stones, except for this one small hole where the animal clawed its way in. So Clapp and his team, they get their torches and they crawl through.
Okay.
They get inside, and the article calls it a spacious apartment. And there, on the floor, are great numbers of human bones.
And this is where Mr. Clapp, who admits he has no scientific knowledge, suddenly becomes an anatomist.
He starts piecing them together. He says he managed to articulate a complete human skeleton. And this is where the numbers just get staggering. He claims it measured 8 feet, 11 inches.
Which is massive. But let's look at the specific anatomical claims. He says the femur, the thigh bone, measured up to my thigh,
Right.
which implies the upper leg bone of this giant was as long as Clapp's entire leg. I mean, that would completely change how a person walks.
And he also says the ribs were more like those of a horse.
See, that is a very telling comparison. It suggests a rib cage that's not just longer, but broader. But honestly, that specific detail often flags a potential misidentification.
How so?
Well, if you're in a dark cave and you see a rib that looks like a horse rib, there's a pretty good chance you're actually looking at, a horse or a similar large animal. But Clapp was convinced it was human.
Well, the detail that really got me, it wasn't the ribs. It was the jaw.
Ah, yes. The molars.
I love this quote. He says, the molars were big enough to crack a coconut.
A coconut. Not a walnut. A coconut. That's a terrifying image.
And the head was 18 inches from front to back. He figures there were enough bones in that cave for 200 complete skeletons. He calls it the burial place of a race of giants who antedated the Aztecs.
It's interesting he mentions the Aztecs. It anchors the find in a recognizable timeline for the reader, but pushes it back into that mysterious before time.
Yeah.
It separates known history from this mythical, monstrous past. Did you see the bit about the artifact he found?
The hatchet.
Yes, a massive stone hatchet that weighed 30 pounds. Now think about that. A standard sledgehammer might be 10 or 12 pounds. Swinging a 30-pound hatchet as a hand tool implies a strength that is just off the charts.
And Clapp clearly thought this was the real deal. The article mentions the Mexican government was holding a jealous guard over the relics. He was even trying to get a noted archaeologist, Professor Alexander Agassiz, to go down there.
It adds that layer of bureaucratic realism, doesn't it? I found the bones, but the government sees them. It explains why you, the reader, can't see them. It solves the where is the evidence problem right away.
It's a perfect media package.
Mm-hmm.
So that's Mexico. But what surprised me is you don't have to go to some exotic cave. Apparently, giants were right here in the American suburbs.
Well, maybe not quite suburbs back then, but definitely in settled areas. You're looking at the Ohio report now.
I am. The Stark County Democrat, May 18, 1900. Workmen find the remains of a supposed mound builder. This is in East Liverpool, Ohio. And they weren't hunting a mountain lion. They were just digging a cellar for a guy named William Wright.
And what did they find in Mr. Wright's cellar?
A petrified skeleton.
Yeah.
But get this. The Mexico giant was 8'11", this one. The article claims the frame measured 18 feet in length.
18. That is, okay, that's a two-story house. We have literally doubled the size of the last giant.
Basically. And they gathered up the bones and weighed them. It says when the bones were gathered up and weighed, they tipped the scales at 853 pounds.
Nearly half a ton of bone.
And just like with Clapp's story, they appeal to authority. The article says, the Smithsonian Institute has been advised of the find.
Always the Smithsonian. It's also interesting they label this one a mound builder.
Right.
In the 19th century, there was this massive public fascination with the mound builders. Settlers saw these huge earthen structures and couldn't, or maybe wouldn't, believe that the ancestors of the local Native Americans had built them.
So they came up with other theories.
All sorts of wild theories. A lost white race, or in this case, a race of giants. Finding a giant in a mound wasn't just news, it validated a very specific worldview.
It seems like every time someone dug a hole, they just hit a giant. I have another one here from the Richmond Palladium, way back in 1846, Williamson County, Tennessee.
So this one's even older.
Yeah, and deeper.
Yeah.
They found these bones 50 feet underground, and the scale, 16 feet in length.
Okay, so we've got an 18-footer in Ohio, a 16-footer in Tennessee. We are consistently seeing sizes that just defy biology.
And the Tennessee one was described as nearly all perfect. But here's the kicker, and this really speaks to what you were saying about the media. The article ends by saying the bones are ready for exhibition.
There it is, exhibition. You have to remember, this is the P.T. Barnum era. A giant skeleton wasn't just a scientific anomaly, it was a ticket seller. Finding a giant could be incredibly lucrative.
So you think the exhibition part drove the discovery part?
I mean, it's hard to ignore the correlation. If you have a 16-foot skeleton, people will pay a dime to see it. If you find some mastodon bones and just, arrange them sort of in the shape of a man, you've got a show.
But what's truly wild is that as we look at more sources, they just keep getting bigger. It's like a competition. I'm looking at this syndicated article, Giants of the Past, that was in a few papers around 1905. It's like a Hall of Fame.
A catalog of claims. They start off almost, well, reasonable is a strong word.
Right. They mention a giant at Rouen in 1830 who was 10 feet high. Okay, very tall, but not 18 feet. Then Galabra from Arabia, brought to Rome, also 10 feet.
Then they ramp it up.
They do. Phantom, 11.5 feet. Then we get the Chevalier Scrog.
What a name.
Sounds like a wrestling villain. He apparently found a head in Tenerife with 60 teeth. Estimated height, 15 feet.
And notice the obsession with teeth again. Claps had coconut crackers. Scroggs has 60 teeth. It's this visceral detail that just signals monster.
But then we just leave reality completely behind. The article lists Farragus, slain by Orlando, height, 20 to 28 feet.
Now we're in folklore, but the newspaper presents it in the same list as the scientific finds. It just blurs that line.
It gets bigger. Isklint, found in 1814, 30 feet high.
30 feet! That's a T-Rex.
And wait, I missed one. Kenalocus rex, found in Dauphine in 1623. A tomb with a skeleton 25 feet long and 10 feet across the shoulders.
10 feet wide. Just imagine the structural support needed for that, the width of a small room.
And then the article takes us to Sicily.
Ah, Sicily. The capital of impossible giants.
Apparently. In 1516, near Palermo, a skeleton of 30 feet. Then in 1559, another one, wait for it, 44 feet high.
44 feet. That is nearly the height of the letters on the Hollywood sign. How would that even work? Gravity would just crush you.
It would, wouldn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The square cube law. If you make a human 44 feet tall, their bones would snap under their own weight. But the article just treats it as another data point.
And they have that specific detail for the Magrino giant in 1816, the 30-footer. The head size,
Right. They say the head was the size of a hogshead.
which is a big barrel,
A
basic.
very large wooden cask, yeah. Holds about 60 or 70 gallons. Imagine a human head that could hold 70 gallons of water.
Yeah.
And the teeth. This Magrino giant's teeth weighed 5 ounces each.
5 ounces. That's a baseball.
A baseball in your mouth.
And the Rouen skeleton from 1500. Its head could hold a bushel of corn. It's such a weirdly agricultural way to measure a skull. Yeah, nice skull. Holds about a bushel.
It speaks to the audience, doesn't it? It makes the impossible relatable. It takes a lie and anchors it in the physical reality of the farmer reading the paper.
So we've gone from 8 feet in Mexico to 44 in Sicily. It feels like the further back in time or the further away, the bigger the lie could be. But I want to bring it back to something that feels a little more grounded. The Yosemite mummy.
Ah, yes. From the Yosemite Museum files. This one feels different. It's more localized.
It does. It describes a discovery in 1855. A mother and child duo found in a closed-off cave in Yosemite Valley. The Martindale mummies.
And the height claim here is much more modest compared to our Sicilian friend.
Nearly 7 feet tall.
Which, for a woman in 1855, is exceptionally tall, but it's not 44 feet. It's plausible enough to make you pause.
But the source material connects this to local legend. It mentions the Owenichi people and their legend of giant enemies that once roamed their land.
And that's a common motif. Trying to connect the physical find with the oral histories, it lends an air of legitimacy. See? The legends were true.
But what I like about this source is that it actually asks the question we've been dancing around. It asks, and I'm quoting, could this giantess be one of them? Or was she just a hoax played by the miners who discovered her?
That's a crucial distinction. The newspaper articles we read earlier presented these as undeniable facts. Skeleton found. Smithsonian advised. This file acknowledges the reality of the era. Miners got bored, and they liked practical jokes. Or profit.
Right. If you can charge admission to see the Yosemite mummy, maybe you construct one.
Precisely. In 1855 California, that's the gold rush. You have thousands of men looking to strike it rich. If the gold pans out, maybe a giant mummy pays the bills.
But it leaves us with this weird tension. On one hand, you have the obvious exaggerations, the 44-foot people. On the other, you have these really specific reports like Claps with an 8'11" skeleton and horse-like ribs. It's in this uncanny valley.
And that's where the fascination is. Are we just left with hoaxes, or is it something else, like misidentified megafauna? Remember the horse ribs?
Okay.
If you find a prehistoric ground sloth or a cave bear and you don't know anatomy, maybe you see a giant human. You see a femur as big as your leg, and your brain just wants it to be human.
That's a really good point. And Clapp himself admitted he had no scientific knowledge. He was just a broker with a torch in a cave.
Exactly. He was interpreting shadows.
So to recap, we started with Charles Clapp and his coconut-cracking molars in Mexico. We went to Ohio to dig up an 18-footer in a cellar tied to the mound builder myths. We went 50 feet underground in Tennessee for a 16-footer meant for exhibition. And then we toured Europe to see heads the size of wine casks.
And finally, a potential 7-foot mummy in Yosemite that might just be a couple of bored miners having a laugh.
Is it a wild ride through the archives?
It really highlights a specific cultural moment. The world was still full of blank spots on the map. Science was professionalizing, but it hadn't fully taken over the public imagination. There was still room for monsters.
That's the vibe I get. This feeling that we've diminished, and the ancients were these titans.
Exactly. There were giants in the earth in those days. It's a very old, very powerful narrative. And newspapers sold that narrative because people wanted to buy it.
But here's the thought I want to leave you with. We have reports with specific weights, 853 pounds of bone. We have specific artifacts, a 30-pound hatchet. We have names. We have institutions like the Smithsonian.
We have a paper trail.
A massive paper trail. So where is it all? If there were enough bones in that Mexican cave for 200 skeletons, where did they go? If the Ohio giant was weighing down the scales, where is it now? It feels like we have this history of physical evidence that was meticulously recorded and then just vanished.
Vanished into the archives. Or maybe it vanished because the closer you look, the more the giant shrinks back into a bare bone or a plaster hoax.
Or maybe those government guards in Mexico did their job a little too well.
Maybe so.
That's all for this deep dive. Try not to look too closely at the shadows in caves next time you're out hiking.
And always check the ribs.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll catch you on the next one.